About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, first time I fished the summer, I come across the lacewing caddis, or what they call the lacewing caddis, which is the grapevine hopper. It's not a caddis at all, it's a leaf hopper type fly. But no one told me they just called it a lacewing caddis, and I wasn't too smart. I didn't try and grab a couple and have a close look. I just assumed, oh, it's caddis, and tried to fish it like with traditional caddis patterns, and wasn't really successful. I've come across it each year while I've been there, and then this last February when I was back this year, they just had a phenomenal lacewing caddis or vine hopper season on a lot of the rivers, but especially where we were, the Tongariro, and the fish were just keyed in on these things, something silly. And look, you can catch them on a whole range of patterns. You know, the F fly works really well at different times. The wired steer hair emerger works reasonably well. Adams can sometimes work well as well. So I guess the odd fish, you know, it just gets into that feeding pattern and comes up when something's coming down. But the locals use these little patterns with an overwing. And at the time I couldn't buy any because they were sold out. So I put two in the vise and show you. So this is one I brought from one I brought from one of the shops. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Not very well. How's that? Why is that not focused?
I reckon if you put your hand right against the back of it, it'll focus. There you go.
I'll get something.
White paper. That's it.
So I don't know if you can see. It's got a speckled. So it's got one of these fake wing that you have to cut out of the winging material, and then it's got a little dub body, and then just a little white or dun hackle underneath this one. And so the guy in the shop was tying these up when I tried to buy some, and the maximum you would sell anyone at one time was 4. And they don't last very long. The wings are quite fragile, but, or sorry, when I say they don't last long, if you catch a lot of fish, they don't last long. The fish tend to chew them up pretty quick, and after about 5 or 6 fish, then it's starting to look pretty ordinary, like this one here. I don't know if you can see that. So the wings get chewed up and just start to disintegrate and disappear. The other variation I brought was this one, and it's a little bit of a monstrosity. And so what happened was I couldn't buy the pattern, so one of Anna's friends, Bronwyn, who tied the flies for the competitors at the Commonwealth Games, gave me all the materials to tie my own patterns, and I went back to where we're staying and tied up a heap of these patterns here. And use those over the next week, really, and caught an awful lot of fish on them. The other pattern that I caught a lot of fish on, and this is the same pattern, but completely looks a lot different. And this has got that packing foam, that real thin white packing foam.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I trimmed the wings are a lot bigger than the traditional pattern and the actuals, but it actually is easier to see on the water because these sit really low in the water and they're hard to see the distance, but this one floats really well.
How does that cast, Wayne? Does that spin when you cast?
No, it seems to cast fine. I've never had any troubles, but again, like the other pattern, once you catch 5 or 6 fish on it, it tends to, the wings tend to break up and disintegrate. So that's the other variation that they sell in the shops there, and they use a texture to just put black marks on the wings.
That's pretty sad one that you're catching 5 or 6 fish, isn't it?
Well, I tell you what, they when they're lined up and feeding, you might have to put 30 casts to a fish sometimes to get them to take.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not easy fishing, and the one thing I really did nut down this time was that if you got the slightest little bit of drag, you won't hook them. They won't take your fly. As soon as you got your fly dead drift with plenty of slack, or you're in the same current line, you're in with a show. But if you've got any cross current, configuration and you might not think you're dragging, but you got a tighter line across the current, they hardly ever seem to take it. So this pattern, I learned to tie this in New Zealand when I was over there. So we'll give it a crack here. And I'm using a size 16 fire hole barbless hook, but any 16 dry fly hook will do the job. But I'll put the hook in the vise, and then we'll look at the wings, because the next step is that you want to cut yourself some wings. And look, these patterns have been tied traditionally with an over feather as a wing, and I guess they work. But I like the wing. I like these ones because they look more like the natural. They have that the wing has a translucency that the over wings often don't have in the darker feathers. But I read an article when I was looking at researching this. It said that this is from a local who said he was convinced that it's actually that that delta type shape in the wing that he believes is a trigger point for the fish taking it. You think, well, I don't know, but because there's plenty of times I caught them on the F fly or an elk, the deer hair emerger without that delta shape. But I certainly like to try and match the hatch as best I can. And it was a different fly, something unique that we don't. Even though they are in Australia, I've never seen them on the water or fish for them, fly with them. But
Wayne, the wing shape it is a little bit like what Laurie was saying about the Jussid.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking they might be the same, species or family or whatever. I don't know. I haven't. They don't look exactly like our Jassids, but I guess they're closely related. Yeah. And they don't fly around like a butterfly. They're very quick. They sort of
they leap.
Sort of hop, or not hop. They just, I don't know what they do, but they move really quick.
Right. Yeah. Good.
Laurie?
Yeah, they are all little mini cicadas, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, they do. They just flick.
Yeah, they sort of click and away they go, really quick.
Yeah.
And what happens is the wind just blows them onto the river at different times, and they just float down, and you see what look like caddis on the water, but they're actually these things just coming down the river. So what I use, I couldn't find the actual brown speckled wing material that I brought back, unfortunately, after pulling my fly tying gear all apart. But I did find this Spirit River stonefly stuff, and I cut out a couple of little strips. Even though these are stonefly ones, you can cut a little straight strip, which is about a centimetre wide, like that. And that's what I use. Now, if you don't have that, but you got some of that packing foam, you can use that. I actually went in and tried to buy some that's spot on, but they didn't have any winging material in there. So I'm guessing no one else had any luck if they did go and try and buy it.
Just so happens today, Wayne, I was installing some Ubiquity bridges and Wi-Fi equipment, and they're all packed with exactly the gear you need, I think.
Oh, are they? Okay. So so the easiest way, what you want to end up with is this sort of like this little sort of like heart-shaped, delta-shaped wing, and I mean, it only needs to be like, that's probably 8 mil to a centimetre wide. And then if you got this flat strip, I should have had one here to do so I can show you. So what I'll try and do, I'll do it out of paper. Because if you haven't done it before, it does take a little bit of a practice to get it right. And I'll get a pen and I'll show you. And if you don't have any of that, a bit of stiff cellophane or folder material or something like that might do the job, just to tie the fly. I'll grab a pen.
Evening all. Sorry I'm late.
Just finished work, Granny.
Yeah, running late tonight.
So if you got a strip, if you got a bit of whatever material, wing material, whatever you're doing, about 1 centimetre wide, and just fold that in half. Now, Laurie might have a better way of doing this, but I haven't tied a real lot of these patterns before, and this is the way I
You're doing fine.
this is the way I sort of worked it out. So you get that little strip like that, and I'll actually draw on it. And it's a bit like a half a heart shape on the, can you see that?
Yep.
Not too good. So this is the fold and these are the two edges here. And you want to start, you start your cut where on the fold line. Okay. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut up this line here around it, and then back down along there like that. So I try, so if you open it up,
It'd be a heart.
it'll be a heart, yeah. So I'll just grab my scissors and I'll do this one. So can you see what I'm doing here? So I sort of start up the wing a little bit like that, then come around, and try and get it into as round a bit as you can. You can trim it again later. And so you cut that little bit round. So you'll have a little round sort of section like that at the top. And then just come down. So I just hold it there like that and then come around my thumb sort of thing and just follow your thumbnail back down to the fold line. And then you end up with that little shape there. You unroll it, and you got a little delta heart-shaped wing. So I found when I first started tying these, I made them way too big. So you just got to learn to keep trimming them down and get them as small as you want. Because the size on a size 40, even though those ones there, these ones quite a big wing. They probably work, but I like the look of the other ones with the smaller type wings. So if you're not happy with that delta shape, you can make it a little bit bigger, just refold it and just snip a little bit more off on that fold line. Just come back down it a little bit to make it a little bit bigger. And now I got a little bit bigger delta. So I usually cut all the wings out at once. In this case, I've got a couple here I'm just going to do. So that's the one I've got here. I've got about 5 or 6 cut here. So if I stuff one up real quick, I can grab another one. All right, how's it? I'll wait till everyone's got their wing cut before I move on. How we all going?
Yeah.
Everyone, anyone still cutting?
No, we're good.
All good? All right. So what we need to tie, just tie in your thread and just take it, just get it started. And then what I've got now is a little bit of I've got some Frio Uni thread. So just some thicker thread. It won't matter what it is, as long as it's fairly thick. And this you'll tie, we're going to tie it at the base of the hook here, and this will come over the wing to hold the wing down flat on top of the hook. So you want something that won't cut into the foam or to the feather. And I've got this floss unit, which I found is the best stuff, and that's what it looks exactly what they've got on the commercial patterns as well.
Okay.
Just get that tied in, and then just take that down to the, and this is a pretty simple fly once you got the wing and everything sorted out. And just about halfway from the point to the bend of the hook, and you just have that floss sitting over the back there. Now the patterns have a very thin body, so and this is a dry fly, so I don't know what, I couldn't really tell what they've used, but I figured a little bit of possum, really fine, would probably be the best for buoyancy. So whatever your favourite dubbing is, fairly fine. And it's a brown dubbing that they're using here. And where's my dubbing finger? So I've got a little bit of Antron. But I did use Sills Fur, which makes it a little bit coarser because I had some in New Zealand, but it's a little bit harder to get it really fine. And you want very thin and a very thin body. Just wind that up. And sort of a bit of a taper. It gets a little bit fatter at the front there, but not too much. Yep. And then leave your thread about 1/8 of an inch back from the eye, because we want to put a little hackle in there. Now, so how's everything going? So what the hackle can be any, like these ones have got brown hackle, some have got black, some have got a light dun hackle. I've got a size 16 dun hackle here that I'm just using, and I don't know. It's as much about the legs as it is just trying to give it a little bit of floatability, because there's not much to keep this afloat. You just got a thin broad wing, a little bit of dubbing in the body, which you can put a little bit of floating on, and then this hackle, which won't be a hackle like a dry fly hackle in the sense of it, because we're going to cut the top of it off. But so I'm just going to tie that in there and do about 3 turns, not many at all. And you want to keep it back from the eye as much as you can, because we've got to tie the top of the wing in over it. So 3 turns there, I think. I'll just wind that through. Just get that down nice, and then just try and force it down to the side a little bit, so it sort of hangs out the side. And then anything that's really sticking up, I just tend to cut it off, just so I can get as a flatter top as I can for the wing to sit nice and straight. And then that's pretty much all I do there. And then it's a matter of just tying in your wing now. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can trap it. I found the easiest way is to lay it down, because you may have to resize it, because where you're coming over the bend there, you need that right in the V of your fly. And you can see this one's probably hanging over the front a bit. So it's just a fraction long. So I'm just going to trim this back so it sits behind the eye of the hook a fraction, which is just a very small snip. And I'm pretty happy with that there now. So when you get it in position, just hold it flat on top and bring the back bit of floss over the top, and then just hold it in place. Make sure it's center. Yep, that looks pretty good. Then I just sort of hold that aside, and then I just try and get one little wrap around the front of that wing there like that. I don't know if you saw that. And then I come over with the floss, and I can sort of put a bit of tension on that, and then just come over and trap that there as well. Now, if you're not careful, it will twist on you, like it did there. And if you don't have it quite as long, it might be easier to handle, sort of thing. And then just hold it up against the thread and get a couple of turns around it. And then make sure it's seated exactly where you want it. And then just bed that down and trap that floss in there well and good. And then I like to just take it forward as much as I can and just double back over a bit so it doesn't pull out. And then just snip that off. And then just a whip finish on that. And that's it. And then if you want to, you can just put a dab of head cement on there just to sort of hold that in place. And then, so there you got your little forces, all the little hackles underneath. I'll put it in the vise and I can spin it.
Have you fished that here, Wayne?
Well, I don't know. Laurie, have you ever seen these leaf hoppers at the lacewing ones over here?
Yes.
They are in Australia, but I don't know whether they're in Tassie.
Yeah, they're here.